And it is a very personal and possibly idiosyncratic view, but it might give you some pointers. So, overview. We're going to go through planning again, which we did last time. Some practical tips and tricks, which is very difficult to say when your teeth aren't all your own. Some sneak previews of some key sessions which we have pulled out, and also to go through in brief using the program at a glance, the itinerary, building tool, and the mobile application. And also perhaps some ways that we are suggesting that you can keep updated with the latest news. Okie dokie. We went through planning for the conference, especially before you arrived, but it can't be stressed enough. And the slides and the video can be accessed there, and they can also be accessed on my Facebook page and via the GNP Facebook page as well. We went through a lot of the things, including these things on the next slide, getting to know the layout of the conference. Don't underestimate, and remember it starts on Sunday, but you can start picking up your things and registering on the Saturday. So don't underestimate the time it gets from place to place. Identifying spots that you can meet people at, because there are 14,000 people and they're running back and forth, and thinking of a big landmark like the PLHIV networking zone might be a good idea, and saying, well, I'm going to be graduating or chilling out around that area if you want to catch up with me, or setting a complete time. And you'll recognize the PLHIV networking zone because there will be lots and lots of yellowness looking something like people living with HIV are banners. Check out especially the places you need to be and plan some time out. Avoid burnout. And of course, if you're packing, check your weight allowance, because you will be picking things up in Australia and you do not want to arrive at the airport on the way back with the wonderful things that you might have picked up and suddenly you are overweight. Okay, so how to skip the queues. There are lots of people at the conference, and inevitably there are lots of queues. And if you're British like me, of course, this is an occupation. But for those of you who are not, food. Buy food in off-peak hours. Bring in a packed lunch. Go to a 7-Eleven. Stuff in the conference site is going to be more expensive. So pick up some fruit and some water from outside and bring it in. Try and register as early as possible, and skip the queues by sorting out what the social events actually are going to be, and how you're going to get to them at a reasonable time. How to link the conference is the next slide. Check program and invitation to events which have breakfast, lunch, and snacks. Not suggesting that you go to them just because of that, but if you're on a tight budget, then looking at something where you can wander along the first 10 minutes and think, okay, I'm going to have a cup of coffee, see whether it's interesting, pick up a snackette or two, and then wander on. Youth Positive Lounge has some snacks for people living with HIV, though it will not be providing a full meal service. And what I wanted to stress about last time, the PLHIV Lounge is for people living with HIV. If you're living with HIV, don't just pull your friends in because they're friends of the family, because it just sends out the wrong message. And likewise, it's not the place to have a meeting. It's a place to chill. It's a place to network, perhaps, with some people, but it's a place to chill and to get away from it. Okay, T-shirts. Everybody's going to be giving out T-shirts. No, in Melbourne, it's only going to be 13. And thank you, Bim, for telling us that Ramadan is still in effect, so there will be enough food for everybody. And we, of course, at the PLHIV networking zone, we will be giving away 20 T-shirts each day to people who we love, admire, and do wonderful things for us. So join that queue. The Global Village is going to be the place of resources as well as the commercial exhibit. So you will get enough pens, enough silly desk toys, lanyards, memory sticks, whatever. Most of it is rubbish. Some of it might be interesting. Okay, in sessions, how do you get your question answered? And what you must remember is that most sessions, bureaucracy and speakers, well, unfortunately, especially if they're not well chaired, speakers tend to take up all available space. Everybody will run over time. The chair will probably say, we're going to take all the questions at the end. And then there's only 10 minutes left, which is really annoying. Prepare your question in advance. If they either keep your hand up until it's answered. If the mic is static, and they usually are in the bigger sessions, good chair, go and stand in line by the mic and get it ready. If you've got a couple of, one of my little tricks is to have a card, you know, just plain A4 card, and I sit there and I write my question down on that, so I've got it. Because suddenly you stand up and you think the question you're answering and that you are going to ask, and it doesn't turn into a pointed question, it turns into a waffling speech. And that's the other thing. Make the ask that you're doing. If you are going to make a statement rather than ask a question, say, I'm going to make a statement, or I'm just looking for a point of clarification, or, you know, and things like that. Because otherwise you will not find people being friendly to you, because they will think, well, what's this got to do with anything? This is not a question. Where's the question coming? And the chair will get confused, and everybody will get confused. Keep your intervention short, sweet, and concise. Remember, if you're sitting there on a panel, then it's difficult when somebody's asked a multiple question that you're trying to write down, rather than a direct question. If possible, direct it to the panelists to who it's most relevant. The question that says, you know, could all of you answer the question, is actually the question that doesn't really get answered as well. Let the chair do that massaging. And if you're going to ask a question to the panelists, try and get their name right. They do like it. So if you're advocating on behalf of your constituency, identify which sessions and speakers you might want to target. And this is where you might be doing, you know, wandering around and effectively making a statement couched as a question. Make sure your ask is clear. If you didn't get to answer the question, approach the speaker at the end of the session. Though lots of speakers will be running around, and might be running from one session to other, there's usually a little bit of leeway around that. Have your contact details ready to share. Ask for their card. You might speak to them there, but follow up. Remember to smile. Remember to try and make it win-win for the person. Unless the thing they're saying is so outrageous that really they need to be knocked down, slapped around, out and re-educated, then you know, and there might very well be people at it who do that, who actually say things so outrageous that perhaps are they saying it because they're unthinking, or because they're saying it because they're bad people? Most of the time they're saying it because they're unthinking. So help them out with that. Networking, having a good time. Well, there's social events. There's Global Planet Positive, and there are lots of events happening at the Yarra Social Hub, which you can see via that link. And if you can't really sort of access it via the main conference website, which I'll talk about later. But Global Village, go around the stands and introduce yourself to people. If you don't receive people's contact, write your action on a card so you don't forget. Right. So once you've got a card, then why did that person give me the card? Did I agree to do something for them, or did they agree to do something for me? Write it on the back of the card. I come home from conferences and I've got 25 cards and I think, why? Was there an ask? Like, what was it? Can't remember what it was. You know? So follow up on it, because 4 days later you'll have forgotten. A week later you really would have forgotten. Remember, some of the best networking comes from people who, you didn't know might be useful. So stay open-minded and open to meeting new people. It's not just what's in it for you, but it's also what has that person got to say. Practice an opening line. What you do, for whom, and what you are looking to get out of the conference. Put your pitches together, and we talked about that last time as well. So you might need to set up a key or an influential meeting. Of course, a lot of us will be going there to look at partnerships, to look at funding, to look at moving things on. But be definite about what you want. If there are funders there, or the big people from WHO or whatever, then once again, prepare the pitch. And remind the person of where you met, what you spoke about, and after a conference or Skype call when you get home. Build upon the fact that you've seen them face to face. Demonstrations. I'm going to say 2 things about demonstrations. We only put this slide in yesterday because we only just heard about it. There is a policy within the conference site. It's the IAS policy. If you destroy a booth, you will get banned. And it doesn't matter whose booth it is. And it's not just pharma. All right? Peaceful protest is encouraged. But also appreciate that there will be concerns around security. So, for example, if you've come in from a march or you've got a banner with a pole on, a pole can also be a weapon. And appreciate that the security guards, who are only people, are just doing their job. They're not the enemy when they turn around and say, I'm not going to let you in to march through the period because you disagree with a speaker or whatever with a stick. Because I don't know how good a spear thrower you are. And that's, appreciate that. Demonstrations outside. And there is there's a celebration on the Tuesday evening, the Candlelight Memorial, and there is something before that which has the theme, which moves into the International Candlelight Memorial, which is around criminalization of HIV transmission. And I will tell you how to find out about that later. But this is what we have just heard from the state of Victoria. I'm not going to read it out. So just be sensible. Go to the march with people. Melbourne is effectively a sleepy Australian city. Having 2,000 or 3,000 people on a march is not something that they have often, and having people of lots of different colours, genders, and dressed differently, it's what actually is quite a homogenous white stroke Asian, but definitely not African or South American or Caribbean, mix of people. It's going to be a little bit frightening for people. So respect the fact that they might be more frightened than you think they are by this influx of colour and diversity, which they don't get to see a lot. Peaceful protests. That's the same the way over. And just because you're a foreigner doesn't mean that you're not going to get arrested. There will be people who will be, legal observers and all the rest of it, but put down your name and who you are on a couple of pieces of paper. So if you do get arrested, before you're dragged away, you can pass it to somebody else so they can actually follow up on things. But that's worst case scenario. Things to not miss. The Global Planet Positive Reception, which is not just for people living with HIV. It's our reception for members of the family, so to speak, our allies, friends, welcome to come with us. So after that Sunday night, we're closing at 22:30, 10:30 in the evening, so you can all come and have breakfast with us the next morning, because that's at 7 o'clock in the morning. And that's going to be interactive. We'll serve you coffee and tea and croissants to assess the successes, challenges, and next steps of the PLHIV Global Advocacy. And there will be something like 10 or 12 speakers just giving a snippet, but then it will be an open discussion from the floor. So I'm hoping that will be a good, bright start to everybody's Monday morning. And I'll show you how to get more details of that. And it's not, we really want to make that session so it's not people talking to you. It's people framing a conversation and then making it interactive. And we have a fabulous, wonderful, as well as chair and speakers, we have a wonderful moderator who is going to bounce it up and kick it out and make it like Jeremy Kyle or Oprah Winfrey look like an amateur, I'm quite sure. So I'm going to go through 5 days of key sessions, and I'm not going to read them out, but I'm just going to turn around and say these are things that we've identified that we will be putting up on our website. Some of them actually run to the work that GMP does and the work that is concerned with the global advocacy agenda, which I'm going to run away from the mic in a moment and get a copy of so you can see it if you haven't seen it before. Criminalization of key populations, critical role of young people, and meeting the NGO delegation to the UNAIDS Program Board. Those are 3 case sessions that we've looked at for Monday. For Tuesday, we pulled out 4. There might be more. But once again, one on criminalization and justice, one on which you will be able to see myself and the wonderful Eddie Banda from Malawi presenting at, which is an innovative project, and we'll be talking about a 10-country piece of work that we did. And that is in a poster session. I'll talk about posters in a minute because it's the thing that I think the community gets the most airspace at, but they're very difficult to negotiate rather than the sessions. And for if you want to actually be able to talk to somebody and chat to somebody who did a piece of work, they're a really good way of doing it. It's a real 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 sort of conversation. So it's not as formal as those big set piece sessions. And there's a wonderful thing happening in the Youth Pavilion, and I'll show you where that is in a moment. And key sessions on Wednesday. And action for advocacy, mobilizing for an effective response. How do we mobilize? How do we advocate? How do we do it better, faster, and harder? Understanding impact travel restrictions, and that's not just travel, that's travel, entry, residency, the ability to live somewhere else, and how that gets difficult just because you're somebody living with HIV. And that's a GMP session with ILO, and that proves to be quite interesting. We'll have government, trade unions, community people who have been thrown out in shackles from countries just because of their HIV status. And once again, a moderated discussion, Q&A with the audience, and lots of people from Parliament from various places. And we thought we'd put this on. Andrew Hunter, for those of you who might know him, needs no introduction. Andrew Hunter, for those of you who don't, was the chair of the network of sex work projects for 5 or 6 years. He was an openly PLHIV man within that movement, one of the very few, and he died very suddenly just before New Year last year. So this is a memorial lecture to his memory, and I think there will be some fierce speakers at it. And he was also a great friend to GMP. Key sessions on Thursday. Key populations. Key populations, and once again, we've got another 7 o'clock start, I'm afraid. Key populations in this, within this sense are going to be men who have sex with men, gay men, sex workers and drug users. Just to be quite clear, the phrase key populations can mean much wider things in wider context. So it's those three plus the people who are always a key population everywhere, and that's people living with HIV, whether or not they're from a sub or a different community as well, whether they have a different identity. Making testing happen, and how it's a shared responsibility. And also another look at the global advocacy agenda from a youth perspective, writing our own narratives. That's going to have the wonderful Duncan Mitski from South Africa, that's it, who is a fabulous speaker. I recommend him to you. So there's some things, and I will say to you is that we're trying to pull out all the sessions, and we didn't this year for this conference spend 7,000 or 8,000 euros on putting a complete program, sub-program in writing into everybody's conference pack, because it just wasn't justifiable, though we have done it in different years. But we will be trying to put a lot of these sessions up online in various ways. The PLHIV Network Working Zone will have at least poster printouts of what we think is really interesting. But also the conference roadmap. There are conference roadmaps. For those of you who are able to navigate that site and have checked in to that site, then please do please do look at it and tab through the roadmaps. They will pick up sometimes a quite subjective view, because sometimes it's actually quite difficult to tell whether it fits under things, and there's lots of cross-analysis there, but you will find 3 that GMP has been responsible for. The PLHIV roadmap, and that is a combination of critical issue sessions from science through human rights, through community mobilization, through research, through key populations that are of most interest to people living with HIV. Those sessions which have been where the top PLHIV speakers are from our community, the people who might inspire you most, and we've tried to include, all the key populations, women, young people, who are at the cutting edge, leaders of our movement into that, so you can see where they are. And we've done the one for the people living with HIV, the criminalization of HIV transmission, and the last one that we were asked to do was around mobility and travel and migrancy. But there are lots of them, and it will automatically throw up a complete schedule and planner, because when you look at it, there are thousands, though not tens of thousands, of sessions, posters, dialogue spaces, symposiums, workshops. So navigating and getting the best out of it, that's one way of doing it. So browse there is a mobile app that you can look at from the Google Play or Apple Store, which allows you to browse the complete program by days and topics. So create your own personal program. Helps you locate rooms and exhibitor stands on the floor plans. Search the entire program and share content with colleagues via email and Facebook. You can do all those sorts of things. Start off by just hitting aids2014.org and looking at the program thing at a glance and such like. Come to the PLA Training Networking Center in the Global Village. Keep updated with the latest news, and also visit GMP's website to get the latest on relevant sessions. And what I will also say to you, keeping in contact with people there in Australia. Remember, your mobile phone might not work, and if it's from outside the country, it might actually cost you a fortune. If you have an iPhone, pull down something like WhatsApp to do things. So have you all seen this wonderful graphic, or bits of it? Have you all been on the website and actually looked at it? I'm not talking to any virgins here. Well then. If you go onto the online planner, you will eventually come up with this map. And one of the things I will say to you, and I can't make it interactive on this screen, so that when you go into onto the site, you will see that when you click on, if you do a search, you will not necessarily pick up what you think you're going to pick up, because session events, networking zones, booth, art exhibits, and the main menu are all very, very slightly different. So you know, we've only got about 5 minutes for this webinar to go. So let's just go through this very, very quickly. So this is the part of the Global Village. This is the meaty bit of it. There is a set of sessions rooms upstairs. A youth pavilion, a food court, all the things that you see in green are the big spaces, the networking zone-y things. All the things that you see in blue going around are the smaller, where you'll be able to buy African bangles, probably maybe a Caribbean calypso, maybe a South African panpipe. This is the way that some people actually fund their attendance at the conference or fund their, fund their organisation. So do help out. All the little bits in the, I'm really bad, the really thin ones that go around that say 959 and 960 and all the rest of it, they're an art exhibition on the back walls of the bigger networking zones. People living with HIV are, in other words, the GMP stand is there at 814. We will be open every day from Sunday through to Friday from, I think, about, I'm not quite sure, 8:30, 9 o'clock until 6:30, 7 o'clock. And we hope to see you there. And we will be asking something of everybody who comes there in terms of joining our branding and our campaign around people living with HIV are what? Answer that question. Have your photo taken with the postcode next to you, and we're putting it on a rolling screen as part of a multi-visual thing, and we'll also perhaps be putting that up on a tree as an art installation. Isn't that smart? Lastly, there we are. People living with HIV are They're in, waiting for you in Melbourne. And fortunately, I mean, say, if you see this person, grab them. You might find it's me. Okay? And if not, it's Dame Edna Everidge. But then again, you've never seen the two of us together, have you? So how do you know? Okay, so that's it basically, and I'm sure that was a real, I hope that was useful to people as a last minute thing of how to get the best from the conference. And if anybody has any questions, type them, speak them. I think everybody's mic is on, so just go for it. Uzumi is commenting. No, that's okay, thank you. It's in some ways an idiosyncratic view, but it might help you get a little bit of a handle. And I will say to you, Carsten, Uzumi, and Robin, if you have difficulties in negotiating the program or things like that, then do feel free to drop me an email. I'm here until Monday, and that will be your last chance. Right? Yes, we all have past experience of conference as well. Carsten. It's quite all right, Carsten, and it's lovely. It's lovely to see you, and it's great to know that you'll be in Melbourne. But do go on the GMP website. We are trying to pull together all this stuff, and Victoria, our comms person, is running very, very hard to try and pull some things together. But of course, as PLHIB, we are also a very diverse group. We're not homogenous. So this, has been quite a idiosyncratic and it can only be quite subjective in some respects. But at least, I think the important things are negotiating the conference well, making sure you don't get burnt out, doing some planning so that you can follow your own interest within the conference, and making sure that you make it a productive session. And as I say, if you want to help out in the networking zone, we're always looking for people to help us get the tree together, help us do things. And you want to spend a couple of hours with us, then you're more than welcome to come along. So I think that's basically it. And as I say, I really do, my friend and I really look forward to seeing you in Melbourne. One small thing I will say to you, and I'll reinforce it once more, is that I'm going to say, for those of you who are arriving on the Friday or Saturday, there are some events which are, because they run into the conference program, cannot be made as part of the conference program. The two major ones are the MSMGF pre-conference and the criminalization pre-conference, because they both run into the Sunday. Do look at our website if you are thinking of going to either of those. They're nearly at full now, but there is a reserve list, but you might find some useful things. There are also some social events attached to two other than the Sunday night thing. There's a Saturday night thing, and I would say once again, look at our website and the last thing, and look up the Yarra Social Club. Okay? All right, well, thank you all ever so much. As I said, we will be putting up a link on the website near you, and hope to see you in Melbourne. And remember, it's going to be raining and it's going to be 13 degrees. So wear them layers. Okay. All right. And bye, everybody, for now. And thanks to listening to this wonderful cameo appearance. Okay. Bye for now.